What's up, everyone? Last time I began my review of the classic franchise that is Rocky, and today I continue my franchise review with the very first sequel, Rocky 2. The first Rocky wound up becoming a surprising success, making $117 million with just a $1 million budget. While initially mixed reviewed by critics when it first released, it was loved by moviegoers. Rocky II entered production 2 years later and was released in 1979. John Avildsen would not return to direct the movie. Instead, this and the next two Rocky movies would be directed by its star and writer Sylvester Stallone. Despite what people might think, Rocky II was not Sylvester Stallone's first film to be directed by him. He had actually directed a film called Paradise Alley 1 year before this. However, this didn't mean a lack of resistance from MGM, who were more than a little hesitant about giving the director's chair to an actor that had only one director's job, a negative review director's job at that. However, if there was anyone to bring Rocky 2 to the big screen and have it turn out perfectly, why not its star and writer, who in actuality had a lot to do with the making of the first film anyways, even with another director there. The story takes place directly after the first fight between Rocky and Apollo. Apollo issues out a challenge for a rematch even after telling Rocky that there would be no rematch in the first movie. Rocky, who suffered a bad eye injury during the fight, declines the offer and retires. However, after Apollo receives many scathing letters about the split decision victory and many calling it a fixed fight, he becomes angry and bitter and taunts Rocky, forcing him out of retirement. Rocky's story is bittersweet as well. The sweet side is that he finally marries Adrian and they soon find out that she is pregnant. Rocky, a man used to having little to no money, goes on a spending spree with the thousands of dollars that he earned from the fight. Rocky tries many jobs after that point so that he can pay the bills. However, none of these jobs bring him the same drive that he got from fighting. However, Adrian, who is legitimately worried about Rocky's health, objects to Rocky's rematch with Apollo, which keeps Rocky distracted during the early parts of his training. Things don't get any better when Adrian gives birth to their son early and ends up in a coma. Rocky stays by her side the entire time until she finally wakes up. She then approves of Rocky's rematch with Apollo, which gives Rocky the motivation that he needed. The rematch between Rocky and Apollo goes almost completely in Apollo's favor, but Apollo's obsession with knocking Rocky out proves to be his downfall. The story is very well written by Stallone. It delves further into each of the characters and their personalities. It was interesting seeing Rocky's personality in the movie, mainly because it shifts in the movie. He starts off very happy, he marries Adrian and has money, but we quickly see him go back down to the way he was in the first film, this man who is very unhappy with his situation. While very happy with Adrian, he wasn't happy being retired. Boxing plays a huge role in his life, and while being happily married, that's one part of his life he can't divorce himself from, and this is actually a side of Rocky that will play in later installments as well. A lot of people surprisingly tend to look down on Adrian in this movie, mainly because she was against the fight. It's actually really easy to see where this character is coming from. It's no secret on how much she loves Rocky, and that plays a huge role in her decision. Her decision makes a lot of sense. Rocky is living with an injured eye, and fighting again would be a humongous risk. To not be concerned and let the fight happen right away makes Adrian look bad. We also see a different side of Paulie's character. He actually does show how much he cares about Rocky. Paulie actually helps Rocky get a job, and he shows his concerns on Rocky's well-being when Rocky isn't training well. In fact, he gets into an argument with Adrian over the ordeal. Mickey's character kind of transforms into the father figure in a way. While he shows some of his anger at Rocky, he also sticks by his side when he needs to. I think his care for Rocky really got cemented when he stayed by Adrian's side as well when she was in a coma. I think the one character that saw the most change was Apollo. This over-the-top and arrogant person from the first movie is now an angry and bitter man that is now a full-blown villain in the movie. In the first movie, Apollo wasn't really treated as a villain or someone that you should hate. He was just portrayed as the champion. He might have been arrogant, but there was something rather likable about him. In Rocky II, he's just a full-blown villain. There is no redeemable element to him until the very end. And this leads us into the fight itself between Rocky and Apollo. I really didn't go into detail about the fight in the first movie. The first movie had a great emotional feel to it. It started off slow and steady like a regular fight, and got more epic and cinematic as it went on. It was a great fight. Rocky II's fight is my least favorite in the series. The emotional and rather realistic drive of the fight in the first movie is entirely absent here, and the fight comes off as way too unrealistic and overblown. This is also the movie that introduces us to Rocky's most famous defensive strategy, and that's no defense whatsoever. Literally, Rocky just takes punch after punch after punch. I also never particularly cared for the ending. Both fighters falling at the same time always made Rocky's win feel rather anticlimactic. I always felt that Apollo should have been the only one to go down. However, I'm not the writer, and I don't make those decisions, and we definitely can't go back 30 years and change it. So it is what it is. So overall, it's not as good as the first Rocky. There's a lot more flaws present here in the presentation, but the story is still very engaging and does a great job hiding most of those flaws. Well, everyone, that's it for now, and tune in next time as Rocky goes up against Mr. T in Rocky 3. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time.
There's one thing I want you to do for me.
What?
Come here.
What?
Win. Win.
What are we waiting for? Take this!